Two more victims of last week's bridge collapse in Minneapolis have been found. That brings the death toll to 7 now. Officials are not giving any information about the gender or age of the victims discovered today. Searchers continue to look for 8 people missing and presumed dead. The Minnesota disaster has heightened awareness of the deterioration of many of the country's bridges. But are Americans concerned enough to pay higher taxes to finance repairs? Chief Washington correspondent Jim Angle reports the verdict in the nation's capital is still unclear.
The bridge collapse in Minneapolis and the sudden sensitivity to other bridges the same age has led lawmakers of both parties to call for an urgent effort to replace or repair older bridges, a move some argue will require an increase in gasoline taxes.
If you're not prepared to invest an additional 5 cents in road reconstruction, bridge reconstruction, then God help you. You haven't got a sense of the future.
The suggestion of Oberstar, the chairman of the House Transportation Committee, would add 5 cents more to the price of each gallon of gas. Federal and state taxes already add an average of 46 cents to every gallon, money that goes into a federal highway trust fund. But Oberstar predicts people would take any increase in stride.
Public does understand the direct relationship between funding of the surface transportation program and the roads and bridges and the transit systems they ride on.
Asked about that today, President Bush suggested Congress could have already spent more money on bridges if it wanted to.
I would strongly urge the Congress to examine how they set priorities. And if bridges are a priority, let's make sure we set that priority first and foremost before we raise taxes.
The president noted that before any transportation money goes to the states, lawmakers in Washington take a little off the top, often earmarking money for highways and mass transit in their districts and states. Mr. Bush suggested bridges often get neglected.
The way it seems to have worked is that each member on that committee gets to set his or her own priority first, and then what's ever left over is spent through a funding formula.
In the last highway bill, for instance, about $24 billion was set aside for pet projects singled out by members of Congress. And one former lawmaker says the delegation from Minnesota, where the bridge collapsed, was no exception.
In 2005, the Minnesota delegation got 144 earmarks in the transportation bill, $453 million worth, but did not get any of it for the Mississippi River Bridge that collapsed with the loss of life.
Istook says part of the problem is that Congress spends about 1/5 of the Highway Trust Fund on things other than highways.
These purposes range from billions of dollars that we put into bicycle paths at the expense of collapsing bridges, and of course the biggest diversion goes to mass transit.
All worthy projects, of course, but perhaps not as pressing as bridges in urgent need of repair. In Washington, Jim Angle, Fox News.